Hello, I'm David Jones, and I thought, given the fact we've had earnings from Tesla just yesterday, Wednesday, I thought let's take a look at it. Let's see how the outlook might be for Tesla this year. Can we expect a recovery in the stock price? The shares are down about 60% from the November 2021 high. They have had a good 2023 so far, but is this just a dead cat bounce? So as usual in this video, I'll talk a bit about the recent earnings, the numbers, the competition. Then we'll jump onto the platform and take a look at the charts and see where the opportunity might be. Is the worst over for Tesla yet? I don't think so, but more of that as we get into it. Before we do that, a quick reminder, I launched a newsletter about a week ago. It's free of charge, it comes out every week, looks at what's happening in markets, a hot market to watch in the week ahead, and trading tips, so a little bit of trading insight hopefully every week, and also an update on what I'm trading. To sign up, if you go to my website, jonesthemarkets.com, scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, and there's a box there where you can put your email in, and the newsletter goes out every Saturday morning, my time. I'll also put a link in the description to this video of the last newsletter, so you can get a feel for what to expect. Right. Let's get into it. Take a look at Tesla in a bit more detail. So we had earnings after the bell on Wednesday for Tesla. The stock price did jump a bit in the earnings, but if we take a step back and look at how they've done over the last 14 months or so, since the November 2021 high, the Tesla share price has dropped by 65%. That is, as we know, a sizable decline. It's had a good year so far this year. It's recovered by more than 15%, and we're not for the year to date, and we're not quite at the end of January. So it's had a good bounce back. But of course, the question here is this a dead cat bounce? If you're not familiar with the term dead cat bounce, it's used in stock markets to try and describe a market that sort of has fallen off a cliff, has a slight bounce, only for the market to move lower. And the analogy is perhaps not too difficult to figure out. If you throw a dead cat out of a window, not something I recommend, even dead cats will bounce if they're thrown from high enough, but they're not going to come back to life. Let's see what this means for Tesla. Of course, over the last year and a bit, we have seen a sell-off, a broad sell-off for stock markets anyway. We've seen the technology sector harder hit than broader markets because there was a feeling towards the end of 2021, had tech valuations after the COVID lockdowns and all the money that was pumped in to economies, had tech valuations become bloated? And that definitely looks to be the case if we look at the performance of the Nasdaq since then. Also, I think feeding into the problems for Tesla was Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter. I mean, he's a pretty high profile guy anyway, as we know, Mr. Musk, and I think his profile has been raised even further since he's taken over Twitter, and perhaps not for the good. So I think maybe some investors are a bit concerned that was he taking his eye off the ball, getting involved with Twitter? Anyway, I don't think that's really helped investor sentiment. But let's go back to the earnings on Wednesday night. So the company reported record revenues for the quarter. So we had revenues of $24 billion. Earnings, profits beat expectations. So the expectation was for about $1.13 earnings per share. They came in at $1.19. So really strong numbers. But one point of concern, margins, percentage margins, so profit, was the lowest on the cars they sell, was the lowest for the last 5 quarters. So they had a good quarter, but you could look at that and say, well, were they feeling the squeeze? So what's going on here? Well, I think we're seeing increased competition in the electric vehicle space for Tesla. And we have seen Tesla have made some fairly drastic price cuts to its models over recent months. But Elon Musk said, look, this is working. He said, as of January, they're seeing the strongest orders for the year to date. So slashing prices does seem to have helped stimulate some demand for Tesla. And it's going to be a really interesting market to watch, I think, this whole sector over the next couple of years. And I can say that I'm not a Tesla basher. I've got a Tesla. I've had it for a couple of years. I've done almost 30,000 miles. And it's been absolutely brilliant car. Clearly, They're expensive, and they were expensive before because he put the prices up. He slashed them back down, I think, to where they were maybe a couple of years ago. But it's still, electric cars still tend to be expensive. There's a lot more competition coming into this market, just in the last year, particularly with, for example, some of the Chinese companies. MG is one example, a famous old British brand now owned by a Chinese company. They've got some interesting electric vehicles. Then we have some of the Korean companies like Kia and Hyundai, or Hyundai, however you pronounce it. So it's going to really, I think, put the squeeze on the likes of Tesla, who've perhaps had it their own way in this market for too long. So it'll be really interesting to see how the old EV landscape develops over the next couple of years. Anyway, good earnings from Tesla. Bit of a blip higher on the earnings. Does it change things, or is this still a dead cat bounce? Let's take a look at the charts. So here's the Tesla chart. So since the earnings, they closed last night at 144. They're currently trading where this orange line is sitting. So about 155. So we've had a bit of a blip up off those earnings. Before we look at this in a bit more detail, just a quick update on my own trading. So the video I did earlier this week on natural gas had quite a lot of views, brought some new subscribers to the channel, so welcome on board. For those of you who don't know, I run a trading course. Part of the trading course, I've been trading an account with £4,000 since the beginning of November. £100 risk per trade. These are the open positions at the moment. I thought I'd just show you because I did actually go short natural gas in the video on Tuesday. I said I thought that any strength in natural gas looked like a selling opportunity. So it's been a good trade so far this week. I'll talk about it a bit more in the live streams. A couple of other trades in there. Sugar has started to get a bit of a move on. I've been in that trade for a while. Perhaps I'll have a look at that on the live stream as well. But so far, the natural gas trade has done pretty well over the last couple of days, just selling into that strength. To find out more about the story behind the performance over the last few months, go to the website jonesthemarkets.com/performance and you'll be able to see it there. I'll put a link in the description as well so you can read a bit more about this story of trading it over the last 3 months. Right, let's get back to Tesla. So let's take things out on this Tesla chart. Let's go right back. Go back 3 years or so. And of course we've had a stock split since then, but back then adjusted trading at $27 and then up the highs in November 2021 just above $400 for the stock, and that ended up being the peak. That's when we've seen the top for the Nasdaq and lots of other tech stocks as everyone, the wider market, worried, well, actually, has this gone too far? Has the growth we've seen in particularly the high-tech stocks gone too far? Tesla suffered as well. So we've gone from above 400. And if we zoom things in again, so far this year has traded, 6th of Jan, has traded around 102 for the stock and currently is trading around 155 in the pre-market at the time of recording. Closed yesterday, just before those earnings came out, closed at 144. So what should we look at here? For me, the important thing to look at, if we're looking at trends, is what's gone on since about September of last year, the latest leg of the downtrend. So let me just step this chart forward. So we are breaking out of this downtrend. Just over the last week, Tesla has started breaking out of this downtrend. But as I often say, if you watch the live streams, I'm always inclined to not believe the first break. Just because a trend gets broken doesn't suddenly mean the stock or the market, whatever it is going to go racing away. So for me, at the moment, and we'll look at this in a bit more detail in a second, I'm treating this as a dead cat bounce. So I think that this bounce back is going to run into trouble. The same way we've seen various bounce backs along the way for Tesla, perhaps quite not as strong as the current one, but ultimately they've run out of steam. So that's my feeling at the moment, that we're going to see this rally at some point start to stall for Tesla. It will be interesting to look at it on Friday of this week. We'll take a look in the live stream when some of the excitement post earnings has perhaps died down. So when it comes to hurdles, what's the big hurdle? So for me, it's about $200. So it's still about $40, $50 higher than where we are now. That was the peak or the peaks in November. And right at the beginning of December, the price couldn't clear that level, and we saw the sellers come back in and the price sell off again. And I do wonder, anybody who's bought in the last quarter or the last couple of months of 2022, at the beginning of January, they were down 50% pretty much on their investment in Tesla if they'd held it till then. So I do wonder again, when we see a market like this rally, are there going to be a lot of people, a lot of investors only too willing to offload their stock at a much better price than they saw just a couple of weeks ago? So I do think there's going to be something of maybe a natural barrier for Tesla up around $200. If we take a look at the RSI, it's heading towards overbought. We haven't seen Tesla truly overbought since August of last year, when it traded up above $300 for the stock, but it's definitely looking like it's pushing towards an extreme. This is the highest we've had, the 10-day RSI, since September. So we've got to go back, 3 months to see the RSI this high. So again, a suggestion that perhaps it's getting a little bit overcooked up here. And I thought, as we're doing a stock, let's go crazy. Let's put a moving average on it. So we've got a 20-day moving average. So again, moving average, classic trend following system. And I've got a 20-day moving average here. When the price crosses above the moving average, it's considered a buy signal. When it crosses below the moving average, it's considered a sell signal. Now, we have seen Tesla in the last few months have the moves above the moving average, but they've ended up coming to nothing. Tesla crossed above its moving average just over a week ago. Is this going to be another false break? And are we going to see it fall back below the moving average and start the next leg lower? Let's see what happens. Let's take a quick look at the short term. So we're looking at an hourly chart now, picking it up off the 6th of Jan low. So two weeks or so ago. That trend is up. That trend is still strong. We're trading above 144. We're trading at 155 in the pre-market. So for me, what would be the warning that this trend was running out of steam? Probably the first thing I'd watch if it sells off below Wednesday's low. So below the pre-earnings low, around 138 for the stock. So I think that's a good level to watch on the downside. But for now, absolutely can't argue with the short-term trend. That is still up. I think the risk is the short-term trend is going to run out of steam, and we're going to see this longer-term downtrend resume. If we're going to see that resume, then my target would be for a run back to the lows at around $100. Let's see how it works out. There's definitely a bit more scope for upside from here, because we don't have any big resistance coming in till around $200. There's maybe a bit at 175, but as ever, a really interesting stock to watch. So there we go on Tesla. So I'm not quite convinced just yet that this downtrend is over. We'll see. We'll take a look in the live stream tomorrow on Friday. I do a live stream every Friday. If you haven't subscribed, click on subscribe with the notification alarm bell, and you get notified when I go live or upload a new video. Don't forget, have a look at the newsletter. The link to the last newsletter is in the description for this video. Go to my website, jonesthemarkets.com. Scroll to the bottom to subscribe, and you'll get that newsletter every week. That's it for me for this one on Tesla. Good luck with your trading.